Hey, fourth grade. Mr. Rand back here to do your ELA online lesson. This week we're going to be working with unfamiliar words. So in this lesson, we're going to be using informational text to use context clues to define unfamiliar words. So let's start by reading the learning target on the screen. Using context clues to figure out the meaning of unfamiliar words and phrases will deepen your understanding of the text you read. Let's do a practice together. We're gonna be using the text Inventing the Crane that you see on your screen, but first let's start reading the top section with the green word read. Informational texts often have words people don't use in everyday life. Some words usually appear only in text in one subject area. For example, you'll see the word fossil in science texts and the word geography in social studies texts. Other words called academic words are used in many subject areas. For example, the academic word process often appears in both science and social studies texts. As you read, you can use context clues to figure out the meaning of unfamiliar words and phrases. Clues might be synonyms, antonyms, examples, or definitions. Let's read the passage below and circle the phrase conceived of and underline context clues that help you learn its meaning. Ancient Greek engineers thought of ways to make new machines from older ones. For example, they conceived of and built a compound machine called the crane. Their idea combined the lever, pulley, and wheel and axle into one machine. So we already underlined conceived of. Now I'm going to look before and after to figure out if I can identify what the definition is. So if I look before, I see that the words thought of ways. So if you're thinking of ways, I would underline that because that's going to help me think of this word conceived. Now, after the word, I know that when you think of a way, when you're conceiving something, afterwards I see it's an idea. So I'm also going to underline idea. So just to restate, I underline conceived of because that's what I'm trying to figure out. I go back and read before and after. Before I see that it says thought of ways, and after I see that it's an idea. Let's go to the next slide and see what I wrote in the chart. Remember, to figure out meanings of words that you don't know, use context clues in the text. So we have three different columns that we're going to be filling out. So you have helpful context. That means I just want you to fill out the sentence where you found your clue. So I just literally copied. Ancient Greek engineers thought of ways to make new machines. Then also I wrote their idea combined the lever, pulley, and wheel axle. Now, where was my clue in each of those? Well, I already told you. My first clue is thought of ways, and my second clue is an idea. So if you think of a way and it's an idea, you're conceiving something. So how can I put those together to come up with a possible meaning? Well, if I conceive something, that can mean that I came up with the idea. So it's just a fourth grade level word for us to come to say came up with the idea. So on the bottom in a complete sentence, it says the meaning of the phrase. So I wrote in a complete sentence as I want you to do. Conceived of means thought of or came up with something, like an idea or an invention. So now you can add that word to your vocabulary to sound smarter. Now we're getting ready to read an informational text about how fire and air interact with each other. Please follow along as I read it to you. Fire and Air by Joanna Joyner. Starting a fire is a bit like following a recipe. Getting anything to combust takes three ingredients: fuel, heat, and oxygen. All three are needed for burning to begin, but where do these ingredients come from? Fuel is anything that burns easily, including wood, paper, or grass. Heat can come from many places, but most people use matches, and oxygen, of course, is a gas in the air around us. If a fire doesn't have enough of any of the three ingredients, it will be weak. To strengthen the fire, just add one or more of the ingredients. It is simple to add more fuel or heat, but how do you add more oxygen? From a safe distance, blow on the fire. You will see it strengthen because blowing adds oxygen to the fire, making it burn vigorously. Your fire will grow brighter, bigger, brighter, and stronger. To understand the role oxygen plays in keeping in a fire burning, try this experiment. An experiment with fire. Materials you will need. Most important, a teacher helping you. 3 small candles, tea lights, 3 saucers, 2 glass jars, one larger than the other. Procedure to follow. Put each candle on a saucer and have your teacher light each one. Place a jar over 2 of the candles. Pay attention to the candles to monitor what happens over time. You will observe that the candle with the least air available, the one covered by the smaller jar, is the first one extinguished. Keep watching to see which candle goes out next. Blow out the last candle. Let's start by reading the Explore question. How did context clues help you figure out the meaning of unfamiliar words in the science text? Okay, so it gives us a chart that it wants us to complete. So it actually already gave us the words that we're going to be defining. First is combust, second is monitor. Now it gave us one helpful context for combust. We're going to go back to the text to find our clue and possible meaning of combust. So as you see, we had to go back to the text. You'll also notice that the first sentence is the first helpful context in our chart. Starting a fire is a bit like following a recipe. One bit of information in the first text that would be helpful for me is starting a fire. So that's what I'm going to write in my clue box. Now, I need to find another piece of helpful context to help me get a better possible meaning. I find a second piece of helpful information in the third sentence. All 3 are needed for burning to begin. I'm going to write that in my helpful context box. Now I want to identify the clues I got from these bits of helpful information. So like I said, I put starting a fire for my number 1. And for number 2, the most helpful word in there is burning. So when I think about these 2 clues together, starting a fire and burning, I can figure out what combust might mean. I think it might mean to catch on fire. So I'm going to put that in my possible meaning box. Okay, so now you can see in my chart everything that I just said out loud. Our next word we're going to be looking at is monitor. So we have 2 helpful contexts in this one, and I'm going to push you to find 4. So the first one that they gave us was pay attention to the candles and happens over time. So let's go back to the text and find 2 more. I'm in paragraph 5 looking for the word monitor. So I found it, I circled it, and I found the 2 helpful contexts that were already given to me. Those came in the same sentence as the word monitor. Now I'm going to look at the sentence afterwards. I see it says, you will observe that the candle with the least air available, the one covered by the smaller jar, is the first one extinguished. Something that I find helpful for me is that it says you will observe that the candle, that sounds like it's going to help me define what monitor means. Also, I look below after that sentence and it says, keep watching to see which candle goes out next. So another helpful thing for me that I keep hearing is to keep watching. These all sound like synonyms: to pay attention, watch what happens over time, observe, and keep watching. Those all sound pretty similar to me, so I'm going to write them all down. Again, now you're going to see in my chart everything that I just said out loud. Let's jump to the clues part of the word monitor. Like I said, synonyms: attention, happens over time, observe, watching. Now, a possible meaning for monitor could be to watch. Something else that I came up with is to keep an eye on. So I wrote in my definition to pay attention close or to watch closely. So we're done. You just watched how we can take unfamiliar words and define them using context clues, and that's reading before and after. I'll see you on our Zoom call, and I love and miss you. Bye, guys.